everybody will stand with us. It says to come into his house with praise and thanksgiving, and we're going to do just that.
Worship our great God together this morning. Are you ready? He's worthy. He's worthy of honor. He's worthy of glory. He's worthy of praise. Let your spirit come alive today in the presence of the Lord and do one of the highest causes that you were ever created for, and that's to worship this great Creator that loves you. Sing it out.
Thank you, Father, for being here. We came expecting something this morning, and when we expect something, He shows up. Amen? He's going to pour out His Spirit on us today. This is a new song, but it's easy. You can catch right on. Why don't you raise your hands, and I want you to just begin to ask the Lord for the things that you need in your life. I don't know what's going on in your family. I don't know what's going on in your marriage, but He does. And He's a miracle worker. He is the way maker. And He is here this morning. Oh. I worship you. I worship you. Come on, sing it choir. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you. We call him the Waymaker. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. Come on, sing it again, church. Waymaker. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God, that is who you are. You are here. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. I worship you. I worship you. God, He never slumbers and He never sleeps. He's working even when you can't see Him working. How many people need a miracle today for someone that you love? Yeah. Oh, we press into you, Lord. Yes, even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. And even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop 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 working. You never stop. Do it again. You never stop working. You never stop working. You never stop working. You never stop working. You never stop
That's who He is. Our God's a miracle worker. He's light in the darkness. He's power in your life today. He's hope for the hopeless. He's the living God. He's the living God. Praise the name of the Lord. What a great opportunity that we have to worship God today. And now we turn to worshiping Him in some different ways today. In His own words, He said, "Do this in remembrance of me." What? We're going to share in Holy Communion together. We're going to ask for our servers to come if they will. And in the presence of the Lord, just continue to worship Him at your seat. And they will come in just a few moments and begin to serve you the elements. If you are new to this church or to a church, and you've never been a part of a communion service before, we'll explain more in detail in a few moments what the two elements that you're about to receive stand for, the bread and the cup. But if you are new here, you're welcome to participate. We would simply ask that you know Christ as your Savior. If you don't, we would certainly welcome you to be wide open to that idea, that concept. God loves you so much, He gave His only Son to die in your place. Communion in part represents that, His blood that was shed so that we can be forgiven. And these guys in just a moment are going to come through and serve each of you. And if you just hold on to those elements until everybody is received, then we will walk you through receiving of the communion in just a few moments. I'm honored and really pleased today to have one of our associate pastors, Pastor Charlie Fancher, who does a lot of our hospital visitation, teaches classes. He's going to join me in just a few moments to participate in walking you through. The Bible says to examine yourself in these moments. So as the worship's taking place, I encourage you to do that. How many of you know that even when you mess up, God still wants you? He still loves you. He still believes in you. And so right there at your seat, you can spend some quality moments interacting with Jesus as we worship together today.
was your foe, still your love fought for me. Thank you, Jesus. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, when I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. Yes, you did. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming. The overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, and leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, but still you give yourself.
Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless.
Love of God.
Oh, it matter. The reckless love of God still reaches across the barriers, still climbs walls, still reaches the lost, leaves the 99 for that one, fights for us. I love that line. You fight for us, God.
Thank you, Lord.
Fight for someone today, oh God. Fight for someone that feels hopeless. Fight for somebody that feels worthless. Fight for somebody today that feels like giving up. Fight for somebody today that feels like God could never love me. He can never. Yes, He can. Yes, He does. Yes, He always will. Thank you, God, for your amazing love. In Jesus' name. In Jesus' name. Praise the Lord. God's presence is in this place today. Praise the name of the Lord. God loves you today. It's on your side. It's on your side. Minister to your people today, Lord Jesus. Praise the name of the Lord. We're so grateful for the worship opportunities that we have here. So grateful for God's presence. We'll let you be seated in the presence of the Lord today. Grateful for each of you. Grateful for Jesus. Amen. But along with this, we're going to have some fun. And so today, where's my romantic guys out there today? It was a delayed reaction. Did you know that? And then I'm trying to look at their wise faces, like for those rolled eyes, like, oh, brother. Since when? So we wanted to help you guys out today. Some of you guys aren't quite as romantic as you used to be. And on this husband helper day, on this day when we wanted to help you become the man of your wife's dreams, we thought we would give you a romantic date package, the husband helper romance package. There's flowers. That's right. There's Dove chocolates. There's a Muriel's gift certificate so you can take her out to dinner. There's tickets to a movie. And you see that brochure there, that paper there? You get a photo shoot with our own Lindsay Porter with your wife. That is going to be, oh yeah, yeah. How many of you ladies think that's pretty romantic, huh? All right. How many of you ladies would like to win that? Okay, here we go. I'm going to hold the box. And our new youth pastor, Jen Soltis, has drawn out a name. And oh my goodness, it's my buddy Carl Marion. Carl Marion! Come on. Hey, listen, stay there at your seat. Stop at the Welcome Center and you can pick up all the goods. And congratulations to Kathy. Kathy just scored big time. That is awesome. And so all month long, every week, you got to be here to do it. You can enter for your family to win 2 nights at Ella's Enchanted Tree Houses. I can't wait sometime to go myself. They look incredible. It's like spending a night in a motel up in a tree, but it's awesome. I mean, amazing. And so you have to be here to enter, and you have to be here on the last day to win. All right? But other than that, it's awesome stuff, good stuff. All right, so we're going to talk to the guys. The guys, today's your day of reckoning. All right? You're going to have if you want to have the wife of your dreams, you got to be the husband of hers. And if you're a single guy, don't check out because maybe that someday God's going to bring a lady into your life and you need to know these 5 things, these 5 needs of a wife that need to be met if you're going to have a happy life. Happy wife, happy life, somebody told me one time, right? And so ladies, we just admit it, sometimes us guys, we're just real boneheads. We just don't quite get it all. But today, we want to give you some expert advice right off the top today. And so by video, I just want to take you to a couple of experts. Get out the pen and pencil, guys, and write down. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? All right, guys, get the pen and pencil out and get ready for some expert advice here from these two.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gary Smalley, and I've been helping marriages for years improve. And I've got a couple of friends who have some very unique insights into marriage, and I want you to meet them.
Hey, thank you, Gary. My name is Johnny.
And I'm Chachi.
And marriages is something I think we're all excited about and something that we think we can bring a lot of wisdom to. Isn't that right, Dr. Dobson?
Smalley.
Oh, That's our faux pas. But we've got some killer marriage tips that we think are really going to knock your socks off.
Yeah.
So let's do some dancing, get this party started, and help marriages out all over the country. Let's do it.
No, let's go ahead and just roll with the tips. No dance. When you get the chance, finish your wife's sentences
For her.
It's important that she knows that you know where she's going with a particular thought or sentence.
Yeah, this says, I know you, I love you, and you're predictable, but in a good way.
When on vacation, have fun, but make sure your wife knows exactly how much this thing is costing. Now remember, allowing her to feel guilt can actually be a good thing.
Right you are, because GUILT is actually an acronym for Good Financial Stewardship.
No, that's...
Yeah, it is.
No.
It is.
That doesn't make sense.
It is.
Does not make sense.
It is.
When you're in an argument, it's key to use the time that your spouse is talking to come up with what you want to say next. So it goes like this. You speak, and then while she's speaking, you think, and then you speak again.
And that's how the killer comebacks happen.
Surprise your wife with a weekend trip for you and your buddies. Husbands, doing this will help her see that you're taking care of your needs.
And taking care of your needs will give you the ability to take care of her needs. You know, putting your kids in timeout works for most parents, but putting your spouse in timeout can also be really effective. Putting your spouse in the timeout chair will hopefully help her see things from a different perspective, preferably yours.
And if you get any pushback, I'd let her know that you're having a hard time telling her apart from the children.
That's a classic.
Whenever your wife tells you about something she wants to buy, respond with the sound effect of a cash register. Here's a little role play for you. Hey, honey, I'm going to go buy some skinny jeans.
Cha-ching.
Hey, honey, I'm going to go get some bread now.
Cha-ching.
You know, guys, those were kind of horrible tips.
Okay.
I guess you didn't like them that much.
I mean, when you think about it, those were killer tips, and I think they'd like kill most marriages.
Well, I guess we're at an impasse then.
Awkward.
Hey, Gary, here's an idea, though. To keep the video rolling, let's just do the robot at the end and send this thing off with some fun, if you know what I'm saying. You want to do that with us?
I tell you what, I was, a little bit uncomfortable by this. It's kind of like weird.
Gary Smalley's a good sport, huh? All right, so right off the bat, we started out the chute. Well, I hope you guys were taking notes for things not to do in your marriage. Those were definitely killer marriage tips, and I do not recommend them. But fellas, a little more fun today, if you don't mind. There's some things that your wife's keeping score on, and I just want to help you out maybe with some of those things. Here's some duties that she's looking out for. You make the bed, for instance, that's a +1, right? Maybe at some of your houses, that's too low of a rating because it rarely happens. You make the bed but forget to add the decorative pillows, -1. You throw the bedspread over the rumpled sheets, -1. You leave the toilet seat up, -5. You replace the toilet paper roll when it's empty, 0. That's just got to be done. You check out a suspicious noise at night, 0. That just comes with the territory. You check out a suspicious noise at night and it's something, +5. You pummel it with a 6-iron, +10. It turns out to be her father, -10. -10 for the father-in-law beating. Night out, you take her to dinner, +2. You take her to a place she likes, +4. You take her to a place you hate, +6. You know, one of those places that the meal's so pretty and you're like, where is it though? You take her to a place you like, -2, right? The restaurant has big screen TVs with sports playing 24/7, -3. Some of you wives are elbowing your husbands right now. Monday Night Football is on, -9. Halftime feature on the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders, Minus 15. That's right. Minus 15. My glasses are still fogged over from laughing so hard at those amazing tips. Your physique, all right? You develop a noticeable pot belly, minus 15. You develop a noticeable pot belly and exercise to get rid of it. That's a plus 10. You develop a noticeable pot belly and resort to loose jeans and baggy Hawaiian shirts, negative 30. You say, I don't care because you have one too. Ooh, minus 800 right there. Minus 800. Couch time for a long time. The big question, she asks, do I look fat in this outfit? Give yourself a negative 5 right off the top, right? Because so sensitive kind of questions you lose before you even say anything, right? You hesitate in responding, minus 10. You reply, compared to what? Minus 35, minus 35. Communication, when she wants to talk about a problem, you listen, displaying what looks like a very concerned expression, 0. That's just expected. When she talks, you listen for over 30 minutes, plus 5. You listen for more than 30 minutes without even looking at the TV or your iPhone, plus 15. Congratulations. You're doing really great. Now let's read something that really matters. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 to 31. This is Paul talking, and this is really good advice for married couples. Out of respect for Christ, he says, be courteously reverent to one another. Just stop right there. How does that represent the last 24 hours at your place? Be courteously reverent to one another. Wives, understand and support your husbands in ways that show your support for Christ. The husband provides leadership to his wife the way Christ does his church, not by domineering, but by cherishing. So just as the church submits to Christ as he exercises such leadership, wives should likewise submit to their husbands. When he acts like Jesus. It's a lot easier, too. Husbands, I love this verse. Go all out in your love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church. A love marked by giving and not getting. Christ's love makes the church whole. His words evoke her beauty. Everything he does and says is designed to bring the best out of her, dressing her in dazzling white silk, radiant with holiness. And that's how husbands ought to love their wives. They're really doing themselves a favor, since they're already one in marriage. No one abuses his own body, does he? No, he feeds and pampers it. That's how Christ treats us, the church. And since we are part of his body, and this is why a man leaves father and mother and cherishes his wife, no longer two, they become one flesh. Now, if I polled the room today and asked the audience for your purpose of marriage, I'd probably get a variety of different answers. Some of you might say, well, it's for procreation. Marriage is so that the planet goes on, so that there's more kids. And some of you might say it's an outlet for healthy sexual expression. Some of you might say, think it's spiritually, it's a way for handing down the faith. But if we're honest, many people, if you just caught them just straight up and they might say something like this, because I thought it would make me happy. Thought it would make me happy. And the initial romance is great. As a guy that's lived a few years now and counseled a lot of people, man, I see people in those early stages and they're so madly in love and stuff like it. It's an amazing thing that just like 2 or 3 years sometimes can make if people go off the rails and they don't do the right things. Everything that was good and right. I've seen them score tremendous scores on the inventories they take. But I look them right in the eye and say, listen, if you don't stick by the stuff, it doesn't matter how good you scored today, 5 years from now. You've got to stay committed. You've got to do the work that's involved in marriage. So we fall in love and the relationship deepens and we assume that once we get married, all those feelings will just somehow magically multiply. And yet within a few months, married couples often find out it's a lot more complicated than that. There's some work involved. I heard somebody say something, never say that to somebody. I'm like, why? Am I going to lie to people? There's work involved in having a good marriage. There's sacrifices that have to be made. I heard somebody say one time, when you sign a marriage license, you're signing a work contract. You agree to work at it from now till one of you dies. For richer, for worse, for richer, for poorer, sickness and health, for better, for worse, till death, till you part. You say, I'll keep working at this. I'll show up every day on the job. You can count on me. I'm not quitting when it gets tough. Here's the secret to key to understanding marriage. The purpose of marriage is not to make you happy, it's to make you holy. It's not to make you happy, it's to make you holy. The Catholics have a good understanding of this. And they consider marriage a sacrament. Marriage is a means by which God shapes our character, making us more like Him. How many of you would agree with this? Many times we grow the most during conflict, right? Become aware of things, we're challenged with things. And how many of you know that one of the biggest incubators for some conflict and some challenges right there within the confines that you put two people together and tell them to live together all the time? You know? And there's going to be conflict. There's going to be disagreements. What? I don't know. The toilet paper rolls over the top. No, it rolls back over this way. No, you squeeze the tube from the middle. No, you roll it up from the end. This is the little stuff, right? But the little stuff can become big, and then it becomes naggy, and then all of a sudden things start coming apart somehow. And you know, marriage is a way that God can shape us and make us more like Him as those conflicts come up, and we're supposed to be there to help one another grow in these things. So here's how it works. Marriage, God brings two people together. They're like complementing pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, but the pieces don't necessarily fit quite together. They do in the love songs. You know, you're the perfect fit for me, baby. You know, all that stuff. But in many cases, you find out that there's some rough edges on the puzzle pieces, and it's God's work in your life and working through these areas of conflict and things that help smooth the edges so that, how many of you know, how many of you have been married? I know somebody has. How many of you have been married 40 plus years? Raise your hands. Wow, look at that. How about 50 plus? Raise your hands. Wow, how about 60 plus? The Yell chicks in the back are heading for 65 years. Come on, give it up for Lou and Joanne the Yell chick. Yeah. Just told me today he's battling cancer. And now he said, I didn't want her to go through it alone. So they're both battling cancer. And he said, man, we can do anything together. You know, I didn't want her to think she was in this by herself. But I guarantee you interview people like the Yell chicks, and you will find out that it hasn't always been a piece of cake. But why do we admire people like this? Because when we got into it, this is what we hoped we would all have, a lifelong love where people grow old in the sunset, they walk along the road together, and we admire that because it wasn't easy, but they did not quit. They hung in there, and they learned, and they grew, and they kept going. And so, you know, we're going to talk about some of the ways that happens today. God's primary purpose in marriage and in life is to make us holy, to make us more like Jesus. That's one of the primary reasons that you're alive, so that God would have a chance to work on you to make you more like His Son, Jesus. And happiness is a byproduct. And so if both partners will work, you can get both, holiness and happiness. Submit to one another out of reverence to God. One of the most spiritual principles in the entire Bible, right there. Mutual submission. I want what's good for you as much as I want, maybe more than what I want that's good for me. So that word's not an easy word to hear. Submission occurs when we put aside our agenda and we look to the needs of the other person first. And so the Bible calls for mutual submission, not one more than the other, both the same. And by the way, as long as you keep pointing out the flaws of the other individual, you never get anywhere in conflict. The best way to resolve conflicts, own up with the person in the mirror and say, God, help that person to be a better husband. Help me to be a better wife. Own your stuff and move forward. Satisfaction comes when we meet one another's needs. And so in his book, His Needs, Her Needs, Dr. Willard Harley lists 5 different needs, the top 5 needs of wives. Now, guys, do take out the bulletin and take notes today, because I want to make sure you know these things and maybe rate yourself on them, and then maybe show your wife your rating and see if she agrees. All right? Here we go. Number 1. You want to have the wife of your dreams, you have to become the husband of hers by, first of all, meeting her need for affection. Affection. That's not spelled S-E-X. That's spelled A-F-F-E-C-T-I-O-N, for affection, guys. Just clearing that up for you.
Husbands, love your wives and be gentle to them. What is affection? It's words, it's actions, it's attitudes that show your wife how much you love her. It's big and little things. You remember, many times it's non-sexual touch. You guys remember this, and here's the problem. Your wives remember when you swept them off their feet. And they're like, where'd that guy go? Where is he? That's why we gave out the romance date package today. And a guy that's already romantic probably won it, Carl Marion there. But you used to whisper sweet nothings in her ear. Now you whisper nothing at all. You used to, I'm thinking of a song, you used to buy me flowers. You used to, what's the next line, teenagers? You used to hold my hand when I was your man, right? You used to do that stuff. You'd send flowers and chocolates, and you'd call her and text her out of nowhere for no good reason, but just because you were crazy about her. And that's what you wrote, babe, I'm crazy about you. You wrote stuff that'd be embarrassing if your buddies saw it. You had all these little names for her and stuff like that, you know. She had them for you. You're like, there's no way the guys at work are hearing that name she calls me. You were in love. You were crazy about each other, and you planned romantic dates and all that kinds of stuff. And these forms of affection need to always be there. This is part of the work of marriage. If you want to keep the romance in it, you got to keep the affection there. We'll see in week 3 that sexual fulfillment is the number one need of most guys. Duh, no brainer there. Guys, I guarantee you that need will go unfulfilled for you if you don't meet your wife's need for affection. Just love her. Just be sweet to her. Just say kind things to her. Hold her hand. Text her out of nowhere and say, babe, I'm thinking about you. You're the most important thing in my life. It's been said that affection's the atmosphere, sex is the event. And so many times that's the case. The way to rekindle the fire is affection. It's every morning a kiss, and I love you out the door. You kiss her goodbye. You call her during the, I just called to say I love you. Sing it like that. You get extra points. Right, Jesse? I want to hear a report on that this week. We'll hear how that goes. I just call. Sometimes when my wife's there, I just leave that song on their answering machine. She gets a whole song back, not just a hello. All right? This stuff matters. You greet her at home with a kiss. I had a guy tell me one time, I keep my keys out when I take them out of the ignition, and I remind myself to turn on for my family, not off. When I walk through the door, I remind myself they deserve the best, not the worst. How many of you sometimes you say things to your wife with no filter that you can't say to anybody else sometimes, right? You just come home and sometimes you treat the people that are the best for you the worst. And you unload and you dump on them. And I challenge you, no, first thing you do, go in, babe, boy, I couldn't wait to see you today. I'm so glad to be home. Sometimes that first 5 minutes can set the tone for the whole rest of the evening. I love you so much. I'm so glad to be here. How can I help? It's affection. It's affection. Get those flowers. Guys, work at this. Cultivate affection. Praise, words of affection, praise and compliments and affirmations. I love you. You look beautiful today. I'm so proud to be your husband. Affectionate actions, notes, flowers, planned trips together, dates, phone calls. There needs to be meaningful, non-sexual touch. Affection is attention. Take the time to listen. Put down the phone. Turn off the TV. I swear to you that one of the best things you can do, I think all of us could do, is take our phones out at dinner and just put them away. Put them in a corner over here and not even touch them. I'm telling you, go to a restaurant today and just look around if it's not your family and watch people. Have you ever seen whole families sitting there? They're not even looking at each other. Affection. And part of that is just putting the electronic stuff away and just looking each other in the eye like you used to and finding that love again. Number 2, your wife needs conversation. Not about whether the Celtics beat the Sixers, unless that's her deal. That's her thing, you know. If you want to have the wife of your dreams, you got to talk to your wife, guys. Say that. I need to talk to my wife. Wow, we're in trouble here today. I need to talk to my wife. Right? You can't have any relationship if you don't communicate. If you don't talk to each other, including the Lord, right? That's what we call prayer. That's how you talk to God. That's how you develop relationship. Even women are wired with the need to communicate. I love this little study. It was done several years ago. Microphones were put on little boys and little girls that were 2 to 4 years old. This is awesome. You ready? They found that 100% of the girls' speech was in conversation, either with another one of their little friends or an imaginary friend that they just made up, right? I remember our daughter doing that, having full conversations with some imaginary person, right? And so only 60% of the boys was in conversation. 40% was unintelligible noises. You know, I mean, this is, come on. Guys, it's still like that, right? Still like that. 40% unintelligible. And the women speak about 35,000 words a day. Men speak about 20,000 a day. That's why when the guy gets home, he's done. He's used up all his words. He just sits around and grunts. What do you want for dinner? You want to do anything? You know? He's just, all he's got left, grunts and groans, right? Used up all his words. And that gap can cause conflicts. And guys, you need to get committed to conversation because your wife needs it, and become a student of her and try to find out the things that she's into and try to bring it up and ask how was her day. And when it's time to engage in conversation, remember this rule: she needs connection, not a solution. Connie Stanley, get on up here and preach with me right now. Come on. She felt that all the way down to her shoes today. Women don't need you to solve their problems. They just need you to feel their pain. Right? I mean, guys tend to be, and you can't always put them in a box, but guys tend to be cognitive thinkers and solvers. We love to solve problems, and that's an issue when it comes to good conversation, because your wife brings up some problem at work and you go, you look down from your iPhone, which you shouldn't have out anyway, and you go, well, you just need to do this, this, and this, and that'll solve that. And she stomps out of the room. And you're like, what did I do? She didn't want you to solve it. She wanted you to feel the emotion of what's going on there at work. She wanted you to understand the relationship dynamics that are happening there with their work. So-and-so's upset with me, and I'm upset with them. Here's a real good thing to get used to doing. Guys, just look them in the eye. Listen. So you're saying such and such? Really? And nod your head and just pay attention and lock in and repeat back things to them. I'm telling you, man, that's conversation. That's caring. That's connecting. And my wife's probably down there saying, give me that mic right now. Communicate. Because she's always saying to me, well, when we have some issue that somebody causes, well, what would you tell a couple that you counsel? You know this, she says to me, and we're having conversation. They want you to feel empathy. They want to know they have a listening ear. They want to know that you feel what they feel. Your Mr. Spock logic is not what they're looking for in those moments. Just listen, nod your head, repeat, pray. Can I pray with you about that? They'll go, who are you? Number 3, your wife needs honesty and openness. Honesty and openness. This is that like willingness to share your feelings, guys. You have to hate someone to want to hurt them with lies, Scripture says. Insincere talk brings about nothing but ruin. Failure to be open and honest will kill relationships. Too many relationships develop secretive things, and sometimes they'll outright lie to keep your wife from maybe worrying or feeling hurt or getting angry. When couples start covering up and hiding things and keeping feelings to themselves, a relationship is in trouble. And when a wife finds out she's been misled, or her sense of trust and security just goes out the window. So openness and honesty is a big deal. I've counseled a lot of couples that pornography, for instance, blew up their marriage. And that's one of those big, it's like you lied to me. You hid something from me. And on top of that, there's this sense of, I wasn't enough for you, and you had to look up a false person to be in my place. And it's like an affair without the other physical person. And that sense of trust is broken, and it's hard to regain. Honesty and openness. And listen, guys, if you don't share your feelings with them, somebody at work just might. This is an important need for your wife. So be honest and open and don't hide. And instead of being macho husbands who think that sharing is weakness, you got to push yourself to express your doubts and your fears. And guess what? Your wife's admiration from you will not go down, it will go up. Because it takes a big man to admit, I'm not all together all the time. And I've got weaknesses, and I've got doubts, and sometimes I have fears. And you open up and share those. And the very thing, the vulnerability that sometimes we men are afraid of is the very thing your wife longs for from you. The willingness to say, I could use your help. I could use your prayers. I could use your support. What do you think? I'm scared. I'm worried. It takes a big man to do that. If you're struggling or having a problem, you've got to include her. Solve problems with your family together. That kind of honesty gives your wife the sense that she's needed and valued. 2 words of caution. First, for the wives, before you ask your husband a question you want him to be honest about, make sure you really, really, really want to know the answer. Okay? Because there's a difference between secrecy and privacy. There should be no secrets in marriage, but some privacy issues are better left alone. And make sure you really want to know before you ask. Second, to the husbands, be aware of using honesty as a club. Richard Needham says the man who is brutally honest enjoys the brutality quite as much as the honesty, possibly more. Speak the truth, but speak it in love. Speak, one of your wife's needs, honesty and openness. An open heart protects one another's vulnerability. Love always protects. Number 4, your wife needs your financial support. This one might be a surprise to you. Gloria Steinem is one of the most famous feminists of the past few decades, and she popularized this phrase, quote, "A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle." And then in 2000, she married David Bale, actor Christian Bale's father. So she must have needed a bike or fish or something, I don't know. Despite the rhetoric from feminists, most wives have a built-in need for a husband who's a provider, who will take care of them. There's that sense that I'm getting married in part because I want somebody that will watch out for me for the rest of my life, that will look out for me. Studies show that most women are wired with the need for financial support from their husbands. Willard Harley says, whatever women say in public about their willingness to share the burden of making a living, in private I hear something quite different. Married women tell me they resent working if their working is an absolute necessity. In other words, they don't mind working, they'd like to work on their own terms, not necessarily because they have to, because the financial burdens are so heavy. Even part-time work sometimes irritates them if their income has to help pay for basic living expenses. The Bible speaks to this issue well. 1 Timothy 5:8, if anyone doesn't take care of his own relatives, especially his immediate family, he's denied the Christian faith and is worse than an unbeliever. And I know that our culture, in our culture, some of you may disagree with this statement, but it's true. Men, more than likely, more often than not, are wired to be providers, and women more often are better nurturers. And I have people take these inventories when they come to me for financial counseling. And there's this one section on role relationships. And it amazes me many times that the guys in this liberated kind of day, they will write down, well, I don't expect my wife to do all the household chores and things like that. And they'll make all those kind of marks. And many times the lady's saying, I want to do the household chores. I want to do some of these kind of things. They want equity. They want help and that kind of thing. But many times the ladies want to do some of these homemaking things. because I think in many cases it's the wiring, right? So financial support. Hi, husbands, if your wife wants to stay home and raise the kids, do everything in your power to make it happen. I know it's not always easy. I know there's all kinds of complicated situations out there, but man, your kids will be the beneficiaries if your wife is able to be a mommy to them and stay home and watch them. If your income's not sufficient to make that happen, consider some lifestyle changes. I know you want the best for your kids, but they don't need, honestly, more stuff. They need you. You got one life. You got about 18 years to sow yourself into them. No amount of money can buy that time back. No amount of fancy stuff in their room will ever replace you being there for them. I guarantee when they get older, they'll look back and they won't say, "Oh, Dad, I'm so glad you bought me my Xbox." They'll say, "Dad, thanks for taking me fishing. Thanks for taking me hunting. Thanks for taking me on those daddy-daughter dates. Dad, those were the greatest times." This is what matters. And so if you can create the financial, and listen, I've learned this in some ways the hard times of like, we can live on a lot less than we think we can when we have to. You can. Discipline yourself, save the money. Bass boats, big screen TVs, expensive vacations are luxuries, not necessities. Don't get in over your head in debt. You don't need the stress. One of the biggest reasons that marriages break up, financial stress. Practice discipline in your money. Your wife and your kids are worth it. Last, your wife needs your commitment to the family. And how's this look? Number one, she needs your faithfulness to her. It's a good thing. I read this not long ago. It's a good thing every once in a while to look at your wife and say, "Honey, I'm with you till the end. Honey, I'll never leave you. We're going to grow old together." Your wife needs to feel that sense of commitment that you're not going anywhere. Let her know she's number one in your life, not your career, your hobbies, not your buddies. She is. Best gift you can give your kids is to love their mom. Shared parenting is another way you show commitment to the family. Don't be an absentee dad who's never home, and when he is, he leaves the parenting up to his wife. In play and in discipline, be there for your wife and your kids. Ephesians 6:4, fathers, don't provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. Don't make your wife the bad guy. Decide on discipline things together and have each other's backs, especially if you're in a blended family kind of situation. It's easy to get divided on those kind of things. Agree in private together what the rules are. Let the blood parent, especially early in the relationship, let them enforce it. You just stand in agreement. Don't let them split you. Don't let the kids split you in two. Discipline together. Shared parenting. Time and again, the Bible places the responsibility for discipline and training children squarely on the shoulders of the fathers. Thank God for godly mothers. And we'll celebrate that next week, but the Bible over and over again. Did you know as the father goes, so goes the family in many cases spiritually. I think it's like 97% of the time when a dad serves the Lord, the whole family serves the Lord. Unbelievable. You're equipped to do it, guys. You are equipped to do this. And stop feeling like spirituality is some wimp game. You're supposed to be a soldier for the Lord that stands at the doorpost of your house like Joshua with a sword in his hand and draws a line in the sand and looks at the enemy and says, "As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. You can't have my kids. You can't have my wife. You can't have my home." You fight. You stand up like a warrior that you're supposed to be. You're a warrior, not a wimp. Fight that way for your family, and they will admire you. Discipline without relationship doesn't work. Shared parenting is critical to your wife. Home repairs. Wives make a nest. Husbands tend to ignore a mess. And get cracking on that honey-do list. My whole life's a honey-do list right now. We spent our first night in our house last night, man. Woo! But I got honey-do lists right outside the door of my bedroom. Forget that. I got honey-do stuff in the bedroom. I mean, everywhere I look, there's honey-do lists. But it's been kind of cool because we've been working a lot together. And last night, she's moving me on. She's like, Give me this. All right. Home repairs are important to your wife. Just don't talk about it too much in church. Spiritual leadership. Guys, spiritual leadership. Here it is. Step up and be the spiritual leader of your home. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. You don't have to be an expert on the Bible. You can do simple things like praying with your wife and your kids. About a year ago at this time, we did that You'll Be Glad series, and we shared with you the secret sauce. There have been several studies done on couples that pray together. One of those studies surfaced the fact that only 8% of Christian couples regularly pray together out loud. 8%. Now, let me blow your mind. Another study said less than 1% of couples that prayed together ever got divorced. Are you hearing me? Less than 1%. This is why it's the secret sauce of a marriage. Less than 1% of couples that prayed together out loud ever get divorced. It got the attention of Dr. Phil, even in his book, Relationship Rescue. He said, an interesting statistic reflects the fact that the divorce rate in America is a minimum of 1 out of 2 marriages, but the reported divorce rate among couples that pray together is 1 in 10,000. What if I could stand up here, or anybody could stand up here and say, I can give you a piece of advice that will make sure that it's almost divorce-proofs your marriage. Only 1 in 10,000, your ears would perk up, and then we say, pray together out loud, and then you're like, oh, brother. Not that. Do you think that it's possible that it's something so spiritually powerful that the enemy would try to get you not to do it? I'm just talking. You think that there's something so much to it that's why, guys, we push away from it so much. And I challenge you, when you have the opportunity to push away from it, to grab your wife's hand and say, instead, I don't care if it's a 1-sentence prayer, God help us. You got to start somewhere. God, help me be a better man. Help me to be a better husband. Model what it means to be a moral person. Set an example of service to your family. Come out to that work day on the 19th and show your kids what it means to help run drugs out of town by working at that teen challenge. Help your family develop physically, emotionally, spiritually. Fight for everything that's good and right. Nothing more important, by the way, than knowing that your family will be with you in heaven someday. This stuff doesn't come from wishful thinking. It comes from living Jesus out loud in your life. I want to close with this video, and then we're going to pray for couples and individuals that are in there. I love this song called, I forget what the name of it is, so just watch the video. Broken Together.